Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gacee. Today is Wednesday, January the 21st. And how is everybody doing today? It's really great to have you all with me, and I appreciate just having some company here to trade with. We're going to take some live trades today, if the setups should present themselves. We're going to talk about the market at large. We're going to talk about our trading plan for the rest of the day, and we're going to do some who has questions or wants to know about trading, anyone who wants to learn, we are levels. I welcome traders of all levels, but I especially love if you have questions and comments. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to drop those in the chat. Why we're here. This is your opportunity to get those questions out there, okay? And I guarantee you one thing. If you have the question, somebody else has it too. I promise. All right, Maggie is here. Good morning. Saying hello, Mel. Good, and you. Thank you so much. Very, very good. Yes, James Holston. Good morning, James. Good to see you. And Audrey is here. Good morning, Audrey. Did you guys see that? Those charts were wild. Let's take a look at what we got going on today. On these charts, we've got a little bit of a response, it looks like. So we do have President Trump I think in Greenland, about his ideas on Greenland. And so there were some things that he said that apparently made the market respond positively. I think one of them was that he has no plans of using force, which I don't think anyone thought he did, but maybe someone thought he did. So I think that was helpful for the market. At least that's what the headline says. Who knows exactly what the reason is, but shortly pre-market, the market got a nice jump after or during President Trump's speech. So what we see, let's go to our daily chart on the SPX, and I'm going to show you what it's kind of looking like right now. Now we are getting a little rollover. We hit our overnight or yesterday's high of day, which is a level that I'd been targeting all morning long, and made a lot of money playing calls, reaching this target. So I've had a great morning already. But this level, I track these every day. And I put the new levels on every single day. So this blue line here is yesterday's high of day. And look at where the market decided to take a little breath. It pushed and pushed, got to yesterday's high of day, and is taking a breath now. Doesn't mean we won't continue up, and won't go down, but this was a target. So that's something that I've been trading all morning. But let's take a look at our daily chart. And I'll show you kind of what it's looking like. Good morning, Anna. Good to see you. Trade Baby. Hello. Love the name. All right. So here we've got our daily chart. I am looking at a daily chart of the S&P 500, otherwise known as the SPX, on a lot of platforms. And what we can see is after yesterday's huge down and then another 100-point drop. So yesterday was a huge move. We did come back and try to hold 6,800. So we closed just a bit below it, but we did come back this morning, gap up over that. And now we're pushing this level right here, which I've marked in yellow because just so it's a little easier for us to see. I have a lot of lines on my chart, but yellow marks 6850, which has been an important level. We have been trying to hold in 50 for quite a while. It goes back a way. You can see this line going right through the middle of these candles. It's been a magnet for a while. So again, yesterday, huge drop, and then a response today. So after President Trump began speaking, we saw it this morning, a strong push to the upside pre-market ever since, up until just right now, we're getting a little bit of a rollover. So I'm going to take a look at that for trading here in just a minute. Idle Trader Tom. Hey, Tom, good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so what we're noticing is that we have got a nice response, and we could be seeing a buy the dip environment. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, you can see what I'm talking about. We've got these rapid fire or, huge drop days. We've seen a couple of them. Here was one of them. This was a very notable drop, a very, very big drop on the 20th of November. Here was a fairly good sized drop on the 17th of December, and then a gap with a drop yesterday. But what do we notice about each one of these drops? This is a buy the dip environment opportunity. I'm not saying today is buy the dip, but I am hinting at it. I think we could be. So right here, also another big drop here. And each time we've responded with a bounce. Now here we hit this blue line right here is my 50-day moving average. And that's important right now in our trading. The 50-day moving average is important. So back here in October, we came and bounced. Here we broke significantly, but then we bounced, came back up. Here we pierced it, came back up the next day. That's in December. And then yesterday we broke through it and gapped back up over it today. That is important. Now, are we going to continue back up to make a new all-time high? We could. Are we going to give a little push and then round over and drop again? And drop? We could. So I'm not saying that we're just going to keep floating up forever. We are coming into the end of the month. We are moving into February. This is a midterm year. VIX is becoming elevated, so volatility is increasing. The Mag 7s are getting to a place where we've been weak or sideways for quite some time. There are a lot of factors that say maybe we don't go hit a new all-time high. Maybe we don't. But all we can do is analyze the patterns we have right and bounce right here. So as long as we are holding, in my mind, this yellow line, this level at 68.50, which we are holding 68.50. As long as we hold that, I think we could continue to bounce. If we 50 and or the 50-day moving average, I think we could continue downward. And as James pointed out earlier, we do have gaps to fill below, several gaps to fill below. But the next nearest gap is right here. This gap that was formed on December 18th to 19th, right? So remember, gaps are space, air, between the close of one day's candle and the open of the next. So when we closed here and opened here, that created this gap, all right? We closed here and opened here, that created the upward gap. So upward gaps, downside gaps get filled with movement. Think of it as an open window that you need to close, right? An open window right here, and it needs to close. So when the movement closes that window, that gap is filled. So all that to say, we are in a buy the dip environment. We have been for months, but we are getting to a reaching critical mass. I think it is very possible that we could begin to see rotation out of the S&P 500, out of the mega, into some other assets. Okay. Oh, Aggie, you can't see the screen. Okay. Okay. Lost the charts. All right, guys, I'm so sorry. Here I am rattling on. I can see it. Looks like it's sharing it, but let me try it again. I'm so sorry. That's really not helpful for you guys. There we go. Okay. Also, we are getting a jump right here. So I am going to look at calls, and I'm going to look at the 684 calls for today's expiration here at yesterday's high of day. So I'm not going to take it right this second. I'm going to watch this test. Thank you, James. Thank you guys for letting me know that. Gavilan, welcome. Glad you're here. So sorry those screens were not showing, and I've been rattling on about these gaps. Let me point them out one more time for you. Large gap from day before to yesterday, down. And this is the gap below us right here, the next gap below us that will fill at some point, right? There are other gaps way down below here. So hopefully that was clear, even without my charts for a few minutes. I apologize, but here's the 50, and this is very important. This 50-day moving average is what I'm watching very closely. Here is 6850 support level on the SPX. So I'm watching all of these really closely. The 50 and the 6850, 50-day moving average, 6850 on the SPX. Those are important levels. Long as we maintain above them, I will continue with a bias toward the upside. If we start losing and moving down, then we're going to start looking at potentially a waterfall. And we could see that. We could see a waterfall kind of like this over here. This waterfall started end of October and went into third week of November. That was a 3-week decline. So could we see that again? Yes, we sure could. So be aware of that. That happens at all-time highs. It can happen. So we don't ever want to hold on to our bias in the face of charts that are saying something different. That's really important. All right. So good on the stream, on the charts. Great. Okay. So we came up again and retested to my minute chart, and we'll talk about how we trade this, right? So we talked about the big picture where I think we're buying the dip. We could waterfall down, but I think the next step is buy the dip. Let's take a look at, go back to how do we trade this? And as you guys know, I trade on the minute chart because I'm a scalper. So scalper just means I trade very quickly in and out. I'm in the trade, I'm out the trade, usually within seconds. By the way, speaking of that, I am curious about our YouTube delay. Could anybody tell me, I'm going to read off the time with seconds. Could anybody tell me kind of what delay you're getting? So I have, let's see, let me do this in Eastern time. I have 11:15 and 58 seconds. If you guys could tell me what you saw when I read that off, I would greatly appreciate it. That would tell me what kind of a delay we're getting on YouTube. Because when I'm taking these 30-second trades, seconds matter, right? All right, so 5 seconds. Thank you. Well, hello, Bill. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. 5-second delay. Okay, that's, I mean, that's on the edge of acceptable. I usually like 3, but live with 5. All right, so this, how do we trade this? Back to how do we trade this? I trade it with indicators and levels, right? So I gave you the levels, the 50-day moving average, the 6850 level on the SPX. I also have dailies that I'm looking at. So yesterday's high of day, yesterday's low of day, last night's overnight high, last night's overnight low. And then I'm also looking at the opening range. Sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. Today, it doesn't really matter. We're floating upward. So many lines on this chart, so difficult sometimes to deal with all of these lines, but believe it or not, they all mean something. So this line right here is an area of interest that I've been watching since not last night, but the night before. 685, I think, could be our ultimate target today. This line here is the high of day from yesterday. So even though we had this massive dump, we did have a high, and it that is where we are testing right now. You can see it, right? Over it, under it, back up to it, right at it. So if we zoom out, you'll see it a little bit better. Here is that high of day from yesterday. We came up over it, we tested it, and then we rejected. Came up and tested it and rejected. Right now, we're rejecting the high of day. The bulls want us to close above the high of yesterday. The bears would like us to close below it. That's kind of a line in the sand. Usually beating yesterday's high or beating yesterday's close is a good bullish move, and losing it is a bearish move. So that is something they're going to want to fight over, which is what they're doing right now. So how do we trade it? At these levels, I wait. So I did trade this move up a couple of times, right? I traded here, I traded here, I traded here. So I've traded up a couple of times. I have not traded any puts today, even though we had a couple of opportunities. We had one at the open, we had one here, and we just had one right now. The reasons is I'm very cautious of trading puts above the VWAP. And as you guys know, I think of the VWAP as a highway, right? The heavy white line, this is the volume weighted average price. It is a moving average that is influenced with calculations by the volume being traded. You can see the volume down here. You get spikes here, you get coming down real low. So any level that has heavier volume gets more influence on this VWAP line. And that's important. Institutions use the VWAP, at least so I'm told. So the VWAP, I think of it as a highway, with that center being the center divider. Moving up is moving north, right? If we're over the VWAP, we're going north. If we're under the VWAP, we're going south. Meaning that I'm really only interested or more interested in calls over the VWAP, and I'm more interested in puts below the VWAP. And as you know, calls are options for when we want the market to go up. Puts are options for when we want the market to go down. So I'm looking usually, and I won't say I don't trade reversals, I do, but usually I'm looking at bullish moves above the VWAP, bearish moves below. And believe it or not, guys, that will save you from a lot of losing trades. If you respect the VWAP in your trading, these days when you get, I'm not saying that's today, but so far we just had a kind of a grinding upward day. Yesterday we had grinding down all day. If you respect that rule of the puts below the VWAP, calls above the VWAP, it will save you on those types of days. If you've got a different bias, if you think, oh yeah, we're dropping, but we're going to have to come back up, but the VWAP and the chart is telling you, no, we are not. The VWAP will save you from a lot of heartache if you pay attention to it. So that's my take on the VWAP. So right now, I've been trading calls all morning long. Every time we get a pullback, I'm in another call. Pullback, call, pullback, call. Right now, we are getting a pullback, but now we're at maybe a short-term top. I do think we could come up and hit 685 here. Possibly, we don't have to. Or we may just reject here at the high of day. So that's what I'm waiting to see. No trade for me right now until I see direction. We're either going to reject this high of day and start moving down, and then I'll wait until we cross the VWAP, or we're going to come back up, retest it, and push up through it. If we get a retest and a push up through it on a nice strong candle, I might take that trade up here till we reach 685.9. So high of day sitting at 684.8. We've got about 10 points or $1 on the SPY. That's enough to make that risk worth it. That's enough points for me to make the risk worth it. All right, coming down right now. Again, I'm not going to trade the put, even though we could probably make some money on it. I'm going to give that some time because we're above the VWAP right now. So I'm going to give this some time to show me where we're really trying to get to. All right, Eggy would like to know the input on the VWAP. I'm using standard inputs, Eggy, and it's a great question. The standard inputs for me are going to be the +2, -2 on the standard deviations. So these are these lines up here, up and below. 2 standard deviations above the VWAP, 2 standard deviations below it. And then I set my charts for the day, right? So you have options here. You can set it for, I set mine for day because I'm really just interested in the VWAP today. And of course, on the SPY, because it runs 24/7, it's also including what it did overnight. So see how the VWAP started moving up pre-market. It's including this average overnight because the chart is set today. Great question, Eggy. All right. So all that to say, right now we're in a wait and see. I'm waiting to see if we come back up and push through, or if we come back down to the VWAP. Anywhere in between here, I shouldn't say that. If we come down anywhere between here and here, if we come down and get like a Nike swoosh, like a little check mark, and we have good confirmation that we're moving back up, I could take a call because we are still over the VWAP. So I want to see the MACD roll up. So let me zoom in so you can see it. And come up line. Now, if you look at it, let me zoom out one more time. Oh, there's a little push. All right, I do have my calls loaded, my 684. So the MACD has been negative since right here at this top. Now, let's see if we get some positive movement, a little Nike swoosh action. Let's see what we get. Gavilan, love that hurry up and wait feeling. Same, that is trading. As you guys know, I always tell you 90% of trading is waiting. Waiting and staring at charts. That is 90% of trading. All right. Looking a little bit like we might want to come up and challenge this high again. Let's see what we get. I'm going to wait for the MACD to move up and this moving average to turn around. I want to see this whole moving average turn blue. Right now, magenta tells us that currently we're in a downtrend. Even though it's tiny, this is the minute chart, that's what the whole moving average does. And no indicator is perfect, guys. They all lag. Most of them lag. We do have some leading indicators, but almost all indicators are lagging and by default imperfect. They will get you in late sometimes, and that will make your trade lose. It just happens. No indicator is perfect. But we are looking a little bit more possibly bullish here. And I'm also watching the VIX. So VIX, remember, is, all right, is the nickname is the fear gauge, the fear index. The true name is the volatility index, so VIX, right? And we talk about the VIX every single session. But for anyone who doesn't know what the VIX is, it's what it is. It's the volatility index. It goes out and it looks at the S&P 500 options 1 month out, and it determines by positioning in the options world on the SPX what are the investors feeling? What is the sentiment of the market? And so when VIX sees options positioning that suggests that the market is getting fearful, all right, we're coming down, the VIX will start to rise. As market fear rises, VIX rises. So when you see the VIX going up, people are getting afraid. People are feeling like they want to move to safer havens. They want to protect their assets. So as the VIX moves up, fear is increasing. As the VIX moves down, fear is decreasing. Exuberance is increasing. So as the VIX moves down, we see the market getting happy and starting to move up. So what we saw on the VIX yesterday was a pump all the way up to 21. And I'll show you the daily on the VIX here in just a minute. Now I'm liking this a little better. And they love to do these big candles that make it hard for us to get in. It's really frustrating. Ugh. This whole 30-minute move has just been covered in 1 minute bar. It's very hard to get into these candles because usually you can get a retracement. When we get that hard push, we can see a retracement right after it. So usually I try to avoid those super big candles, but I've been waiting for this turn for 30 minutes and now they give it to me in 1 minute. Thanks a lot. So the VIX popped up yesterday over 21. That's huge. That's really high. I'll show you the daily in just a second on the VIX so you can see what I'm talking about. But so far today, it has been what we used to say, knocked back into last Tuesday, right? So it is pushing down below 18, signaling that the market is in a little bit of a happier place. Now, 17, 18 is still not great. That's still elevated. There's still some volatility there that we have to be aware of, but it's not 21. So that's good. That's good. All right. Just watching this candle here. It's retracing a little. I'm just thinking about this call here. I'm watching this candle. If this is a pullback with a turn to the upside, I'd like to get in, but if it's actually going to drop another leg down, because you can see we made lower high. So I'm watching to see what it's going to do here. So see how these big pushes can be traps? You have to watch out for these big ones. I usually don't trust those. Sometimes I do, but most of the time we'll get a retracement off of those candles. All right, are we making another leg down or are we going to hold this little temporary bottom? All right, Eggy, you're not able to trade today's date. Thinkorswim does allow you to trade today's date. So when you go to your option chain, so this is the option chain here, you should be able to see all of these different options, right? These are all the expiration dates. And you should see January 21st. I know you're in another country, Eggy. I wonder if is there a date difference between you and us? You and me? All right, little push down here, big push down here. But you should see January 21st if that's your current date in your country. Big volume on that. So pay attention. When you see this drop with a big volume, let's watch this. Sometimes it means we're going to continue, and sometimes it means they're going to hold it right here and flip it. So usually that volume looks like they could be flipping it. We're not. Okay. So again, starting to look a little bit more negative here, but I'm not going to trade that put until we actually get down here through the VWAP. Gavilan, a flip to the upside. Very possibly, Gavilan. Let's see. We had that wick and then it came up and then it came right back down again. So we're going to have to watch and see how much damage do they want to do here. Let's find out. It's looking negative for sure. And I lost my VIX. Come back. VIX gave us a little pop there. So again, something to remember is that when we're in an elevated VIX environment, we can see these kind of waterfall drops. It does happen. I'm not saying this is a waterfall, but this is a decent drop. So when we're in an elevated VIX environment, we do have to be aware of that. Always be cautious of that. And we'll look at the VIX on the daily here in just a minute. I'm still kind of analyzing this chart, but I'll show you the daily on the VIX in a minute so you can see what that pop looked like yesterday. The VIX has consistently been making a rising bottom. We talk about it every day here on this stream. And what did I say yesterday? With this rising bottom, we are looking at getting closer and closer to a spike. I might have said that day before yesterday. And sure enough, we get the spike. So as we were analyzing that rising bottom on the VIX, I kept saying it's possible that we get that spike up. In fact, I think we looked at it yesterday or day before where I said, look at these spikes up to 21. And that's exactly what we got, the 2021 spike. And when VIX is at 20, that's definitely elevated. That's a spike, and that's when you see the market usually moving down. All right. So on the leaderboard today, Google is up nicely at 2.7%. So I always analyze the Magnificent Seven because they are the ones who give leadership to the SPX, to the SPY, because they are controlling about 40% of the value of the S&P 500. That is the Magnificent Seven, those big megatech titans that you've all heard about, right? NVIDIA, Google, Tesla, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, and also sometimes Broadcom. So I'm always looking at them for leadership. No, this is just continuing to sell here. Coming back down to 68.50. Now that will be our line in the sand. I mean, for our trade, VWAP is a line in the sand, but for super high importance is this 68.50 level. So we're at 68.54. That's over here. This is the SPX right here. 68.54. We're only 4 points away from retesting that. And that's this right here. This is this test right here. So let's see what happens there. That's what it's trying to do, is test that. And that'll be actually right close to the VWAP. So we'll kind of get a dual test there. Test of the VWAP and a test of 68.50. Okay, so Google up 2.5, 2.6. I'm trying to decide if we want, okay, we're at 68.50 right now, right here. So let's see what we get. Oh, pushing under. Okay. Okay. There's some selling pressure here. 68.48. And I was just about to say, you know, could we trade puts to the VWAP? And we could have. $68.45. Strong test right there. Very strong test of 68.50. Let's see if it holds. If it doesn't hold, we could go down farther. Look at the push on the VIX, back up over 18. $68.45 holding so far. Almost hit the VWAP, but didn't quite. I'm going to pivot over to puts because if we lose the VWAP, I might jump into a quick put trade. So I'm looking at 683 puts. We're sitting at 68.43. See if we've got any previous support intraday. We just broke that. No, we're right at this current support right here. 68.41. This is where we held before, right here. And we're right testing that again. $17. So far, trying to hold. 68.41 is our intraday support. A bounce, a strong bounce of the VWAP, we could consider calls. Oh, what? Did you guys see that? Look at that. Crazy candle wick. All right. I'm going to pivot back to calls because we could be bouncing the VWAP here or not. Stand by. We know the reason for the wick. Well, we think we know. I have some theories. All right, Eggie, puts your calls at 682. Great question, Eggie. Right here, my decision, it sits right here on the VWAP. If we lose the VWAP, it'll be puts. If we recover and jump, it'll be calls. $68.41, back to that intraday support level. Okay. I'm feeling a little more confident with calls at the moment. 682s. Sorry, 683, 681s. I'm sorry. Wait, where am I? 682s. It's toggling. We're a little bit oversold here on the RSI. We are trying to hold intraday support at 640, 68.41 on the SPX. and we're trying to hold the VWAP. They happen to be sitting at the same spot. A nice good bounce would be enough for me to jump in. We're getting some elevated volume here as we kind of battle this VWAP area. Oh, Gaviline, so that was a question. You said, do we know the reason for the wick? I have theories, but they're just theories. Quite the nail biter. That's true, Audrey. It is quite the nail biter. Yeah, it's been really trying to hold here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 minutes. Now it's starting to lose it. So I'm looking at 682 puts. I'm trying to come in here with some volume. And we're also sitting right at the overnight low. Or is that the overnight high? That's the overnight high. So we're sitting right at the overnight high as well. All right, I'm going to, I think I'm getting close to making a decision, and then they changed the candle. All right, BD took the 682 at 140 out at 170. Did have some drawdown. Tough one to call after that spike candle. Very tough, BD, but great trade. Good for you. How do I know where to enter? 681, 683, so on. Yeah, great question, Eggy. It's the first strike in the money. So usually on Thinkorswim, that's highlighted. It's always highlighted. So where you see the shadowing change on your options chain, that is where the money starts. So it's the first option in the money. All right, looks like we're holding the overnight high, at least temporarily. If we recover the VWAP, I'm pivoting back to calls. This is crazy little battle going on here. a little jump through the VWAP. I might take some calls here. All right, coming back up to test and VWAP. There's a little push up through the VWAP. No strength on that move. Right here, 68.41. That's a level. It's a 68.40 on the SPX. Okay, little rejection. Our VIX is coming down a bit. Starting to get a little bit of a MACD rollover. So if we start forming a green candle and push up, I'm still interested in the calls. And they're just playing here. Minutes. All right, coming back down to the overnight high. Audrey, yes. So, okay, hold on. I'm pivoting back to puts. $6.81s. Yeah, so Audrey, the issue for you is that you're setting limit orders, and when the market is moving, limit orders are usually not going to fill. When I trade the SPY, I day trade the SPY, I use market orders. Now, some people don't like market orders, but for me and what I do on the SPY, they are very effective. Limit orders, I wouldn't be able to scalp with limit orders because of the way that the SPY moves so quickly and the way that my trading is so fast. And the difference between the market and the limit order is that the market order says, fill me right now. I don't care what the price is. The limit order says, this is the price I want to be filled at. I'm not going to spend even a penny more. So when the market is moving quickly, those limit orders don't usually get filled. So I use market orders, but only in the SPY. Limit orders are really important to use if you're buying stock, if you're doing spreads, if you're doing longer term swing trades or low float stocks, definitely keep those limit orders. But for what we're doing here in the SPY, market orders work really best. Okay. Gavilan, after it rejects off the VWAP, does the move become weaker? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. A lot of times you'll see this little battle that happens where we'll kind of lose the VWAP and then regain it, or capture it and then lose it again. But by and large, the idea of support levels are that when we hit them multiple times, they do become weaker. Same with resistance. It's kind of this idea of kicking down a door, right? You probably have to hit it a few times. You have to kick it a few times before it gives way. That's usually how I visualize support and resistance zones. You've got to sometimes, if it hits it a few times, it will start to weaken it. All right, Audrey, thanks for the clarification. Of course, no problem at all. All right, Gavilan says thank you. You're welcome. All right, so we're coming up to the end of the stream, and unfortunately, we didn't really get to take a put today or a call, but those days happen. When we don't find the right setups, it's okay. Cash is a position, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you're not finding your right setups, it really is okay not to take that trade. But trading plan for the day, I've kind of been talking about it out loud. Now we're losing this level here. I'm going to try a quick put here. I'm in, punch it. And I'm not going to stay in long because this move is extended. We've been in it for a while. Here, we're just flat right now. Movement here. I don't like the price movement. I'm going to jump out at just a break even. It's like a 1% gain. I don't like the little tiny moves here. All right. BD, I have two charts open. On the left is the SPY. On the right is the strike price. I then insert the lines on the 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I put a pending order different. Okay. All right, BD. That's interesting. You must be on a different platform. It sounds pretty cool. BD, very impressed with Mel's market orders. Thanks, BD. Oh, there's our drop. Oh, I took a break even. Oh, well. Roberto Gaspar is here. Hello, Roberto. Welcome. And thanks for joining us live. I hate to tell you this, Roberto. We are at the end of the stream. But if you would join us again, we are on at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Darn it, that trade would have won, but I didn't like that price action. So I'm okay with a break even. I think I took like a 1% win. All right, everyone. I'm so grateful that you're here with me, and it's always fun to trade together instead of having to do it alone. So congrats to all of you who did do some trades today and made some money. We'll be back again tomorrow. Remember, we do have some data tomorrow morning, pre-market and post-open. So remember that if you're going to hold overnight, be watching your data. And we will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you then. Bye for now.